That's what TIF is. Definition of blighted. In our state statutes, blighted area means an area in which there is at least one of the following conditions. Unemployment is in the designated area is at least 120% of the state of the national average. Do you have a high unemployment area here in Ashland? The average age of the resident or commercial units in the area is at least 40 years. Well, God made that earth out there in the cornfield a lot more than 40 years if you want to blight it. But more than half of the plotted and subdivided property in the area is unimproved land that has been within the city for 40 years and has remained unimproved during that time. They just annexed it. Has it been there for 40 years? That's the statute. The per capita income of the area is lower than the average. I doubt that here. That's the statute. Then we go to the next one, but for. You hear but for. Well, they're not going to build it here in Ashland if we don't TIF it. The but for is not that you're going to build it. You're going to build it in the blighted area. They're going to build it. Developers develop. They are going to build houses somewhere. TIF is supposed to be a lure to tell them build in this blighted area and substandard area, not out there in the cornfield. It's supposed to be a lure. And I use the word and. The constitutional amendment says blighted and substandard. Remember that. But the but for is you build it on the blighted area, not outside the community. It's not that you're going to build it at all. Next one. Here's the one. Here's the state statute that Mr. Bacon sells his TIF to small communities. Right here. Upon a determination by resolution of the governing body of the city in which such land is located, that the acquisition and development of undeveloped vacant land not within a substandard or blighted area is essential to the proper clearance and redevelopment of substandard or blighted areas on a necessary part of the general community redevelopment program of the city. You can add it to the blighted area, the blighted project. Redevelopment law started in the 1950s. States had it. That amendment to the statute was passed in 1953. TIF didn't come into effect in 1978. We've had redevelopment law since the 50s, and the city could blight or, so they use the word or, substandard an area. They could have a special tax assessment to fix that area. They could use grant money, they could use foundation money, they could do fundraising to use it to upgrade the area. They didn't have TIF. But that was in the 1950s. And its meaning was this. I see part of your community. Bob gave me a tour. You got some older homes. Those people probably are happy there. You are building there. But you don't have enough area there to build, so you need a little bit of area that's on the outskirts of town to bring it in to complete the project. That's what that means. Makes sense. What they have done with that is said, we're going to blight these 3 houses on the edge of town, and we're going to build a Costco over here. We're not doing anything with that. They've twisted it so far, but that is good, well-meaning legislation, and that's what it was supposed to do. Not what you're doing here, or what Costco's doing and Fremont's doing. It's happening all over. But that's the one where the lawyer will tell you why you can do it. There's actually a court case from 1998, the city of Hastings, that said, no, you can't do that. That was after TIF. You can't use TIF. The Hastings did that and wanted to bring this extra land into their and build a KOA campground. A developer wanted to. A neighbor took it to court, and the Supreme Court of Nebraska ruled in favor of the plaintiff that such a result would be contrary to the legislative intent of underlying of the community redevelopment law, which is to eliminate blighted and substandard urban areas. There's that word "and." Redevelopment law says "or." You could claim that cornfield is substandard. Doesn't have water mains, doesn't have street curbs, doesn't have proper drainage. That's substandard. But I defy you to tell me in the definition of blighted how you can say "and blighted." I don't think you can, morally. It's the rule of law. Also, in the Frisky versus City of Hastings case, the record contained no facts establishing that the development of the campground was necessary for the elimination of blight and substandard conditions. Further on it goes, the campground may have been a desirable economic development for Hastings. May have been. That isn't the purpose of TIF. TIF is urban renewal, period. It doesn't care. If economic development happens, that's a sidebar. The purpose for TIF is urban renewal. Eliminate blighted substandard. The campground may have been a desirable economic development for Hastings. This factor alone does not justify incorporating a campground site into an existing development area. Then they concluded it was invalid. They also mentioned that it was an urban area. Blighted and substandard urban areas. So now we have a statute made by court. Why are they still doing it? They sat back. In fact, Senator Seiler, who's from Hastings, he's no longer senator, but he told me one day, he said, when that court case happened, the word out was TIF is dead as far as being abused in the state of Nebraska. Well, he didn't realize there was no policeman in town. There was no policeman in town to enforce that. We have 3 exceptions to that very first article I told you in the Constitution, Article 8, about uniform. We have 3 exceptions to that. One is farmland. The state can set it at a different value. It's at 75% now instead of the 93 to 100. Personal property, vehicles and stuff can be decided by the legislature. And the third one is TIF. A county assessor tries to give a farmer a favor with a valuation. We got the Turk board. The Revenue Department oversees that to make sure there's the policing of that. If a county assessor or somebody tries to claim that they're not going to pay property taxes on their personal property, it goes to the Revenue Department. TIF has no oversight, none. They can do what they want until somebody sues them and a judge says no. All you folks, the citizens, got enough money to sue every time you don't like a TIF project, but they know that. So they ignored this, and on they went. After about 7 or 8, 10 years, it started all up again. Open fields. And statewide tax impact on property taxes. I just went back the last 10 years. See that in red. In 2006, there was $30 million taxes collected and not going to the destination of schools and other entities. In 10 years, it's gone to $70 million. Now you say $70 million a year, compound that by 15. We're talking billions of dollars of property taxes that are being diverted in the state of Nebraska over time. You say that's not a lot. Our whole entire state budget is $4.5 billion. So it's expanding, and now it's spreading into the residential. You know, people look the other way. We all look the other way when it was jobs. They TIF'd the Walmart distribution center in North Platte. People say, well, look at the jobs. I've learned one thing in politics. A scoundrel hides behind 2 things, jobs and children, when they want to profit from your tax dollars. But now we're talking residential, which is, here's the case. Those houses out there, you're going to hire a new teacher, comes to Ashland, Greenwood. They love their school, love their community, and they want to support it. They buy this house out there. They have no idea that when they pay their property taxes, not a dime of it goes to the school. None of it goes to help to build a new building. None of it helps their roads out front of their house for 5 to 10, 15 years. They don't even know that. They get the normal tax statement. They get their normal tax statement. They pay it to the county treasurer. The county treasurer splits it off and gives the base portion, whatever the cornfield is worth, to the city, the county, the school. The rest of it goes to the bondholder. And the way they've been working it is the developer buys his own bond. So not only does he get the money to put the street in, the sewer in, he gets 5 to 7% return on his investment on his own tax dollars. What Bob said, the 1.5 million turns into 2.7. He gets his own taxes back to pay that pretty good profit. I want to make one thing clear. I never blame the businessman. For free enterprise to work, they're sharks. It's the bottom dollar. You've got to make your product work, and you got to maximize your profit, or why work? If the local elected official or the state senator gives it to them, you should blame me, not that developer. He's just a shark. He's trying to maximize his profits. You can blame your local officials for not investigating and following the rule of law, and which should happen. Impact on schools, the two big ones. Lincoln has 52 projects. Their excess value in their school district is $417 million. They lose about $9 million in funding for the school. Omaha's really gotten every $7.12 out of every $100 of valuation in the Omaha Public Schools district is not taxed. It's taxed, but it's not going to where it needs to go. You hear about Elkhorn can't fix the potholes. About $9 million of Omaha's is taxed. They could fix a lot of potholes if they collected that property taxes. You know, and the cities, League of Municipalities will come to you and say, we have no economic development tools. The cities have no economic development tools. They do have a LB 840 and a couple others. But I've always believed that economic development tools fix your potholes, have good public safety, fix your streets, and keep your property taxes low. That's called economic development tools. That's the way it's supposed to work, not TIF. Don't steal from the schools, the county, the NRD, take their property taxes from them because you didn't do your job, running good fiscal government, period. That $18 million and that $9 million comes out of your income taxes because it shifted, because they're equalized school districts. Greenwood, Ashland, Greenwood is too. Because of the bargain made that it would not affect the school district's income because it would shift to state aid, that $26 million, of that $70 million, usually over half of it goes to schools, so $35 million is now coming out of state aid to local schools. That's where the schools caught on. Well, if we'd have got our property taxes, the state would have had an extra $35 million we all could have split up. But now $35 million is first making up the lost property taxes, so we have less pool of state aid for the rest of us. They finally caught on to that. So I'll reiterate, TIF is a good program. Urban renewal. Riverfront in Omaha, ConAgra. Remember what that was? Some of you guys, folks who are a little older, it was a mess. They fixed it. The old market in Omaha, Haymarket in Lincoln, TIF, perfect. You wouldn't have walked downtown Lincoln 30, 40 years ago. TIF did its job. Bob already went over this, but you guys have a 2.2 levy. And what is it, a fourth of it? About a fourth of it? About a third of it. You got a high tax rate here in this community, is your community. So when your city council decides to do this, they say they're doing it for the community. Was taking funds from your school, from your county, doing something for the community. When I look at myself as a state senator, I don't represent the state. I represent everybody. When you run for city council, you represent the schools, you represent every citizen in that community. You're all of a sudden on team community, team town. You represent everybody. It's not the city against the county, the city against the schools. It should be community. And by confiscating their tax dollars, I don't know how you think you're doing the whole community a service. It's about money.